What's going on, people? So when I was moving back to America, right, one of the things that I was looking forward to was the music scene, because I've got the whole wrestling thing, I'm into that, and the only other interest I have that rivals it is music, right? So that's me. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna get back over here, gonna start seeing all the local shows and stuff, because that's kind of how that works, right? Between Virginia Beach and DC, mostly everybody passes through one of these places, or at least somewhere else that's relatively close. So I'll be able to see all that good stuff. And then on top of that, I'll be able to go and start seeing festivals again, right? Because I went to Austin City Limits a while ago, twice, which is where I got this shirt here in 2015. And that was an amazing thing, right? You go there and it's so much of a diverse lineup. I mean, I was able to see Billy Idol and Of Monsters and Men, Florence and the Machine, all in like one day for the most part, I think. Mute Math was there too, and they're amazing. If you've never seen them, you should totally see them. And then you've got all that other stuff, of course, like other big names that I'm not necessarily into, but they were playing, so it kind of makes you think, well, you know what, I can walk 5 minutes across this field and see what Drake is all about, right? I don't care about Drake, but it's there, so I watched it. I mean, mostly just because Florence and the Machine ended and he still had like 15 minutes on his set. It's like, okay, I guess. But yeah, there's that whole thing. But coming back, again, I was thinking I'm gonna see all kinds of stuff. I'm ready for that to happen. And then the world said no, not just to me, but to everybody, which sucks a fair amount. It really does. But what can you do, right? Well, I'll tell you what you can do, I guess. You can find some other thing to fill your time, something else to talk about with people. So that's usually where I do this, right? And I sit back and I take my 7 to 8 minutes or so, if you look at how long the actual review plus on foot is, and I talk to people about shoes. Once I get past the filler stuff, which is actually not over just yet, because now we're gonna move into the backstory here. So every year, I think, or at least most years, I buy winter shoes because I like to be ready for the winter. Now, I haven't really lived in any area where like I really need to be ready for the winter. But the thing is, maybe I'll take like a trip to Iowa or something, and it gets kind of crazy up in the Midwest when it comes to weather situations. So I want to be ready for that, because they get like feet of snow. Around here, it's like, oh my gosh, shut it down. There might be an inch of snow, possibly. And then next thing you know, national disaster throughout Virginia. It's weird. But anyway, so I'm going to run down the line real quick, give you a little refresher in case you haven't followed along in the past. And I get it. I get new subscribers every so often. So some people might not know other things that I've picked up because they don't always go back and watch the whole backlog, and I don't blame you. I've got like a whole mess of videos. Speaking of which, just made a 350 upload video the other day. I spent several minutes on it. You should go watch it if you haven't watched it. But if you don't watch it, it's not like I'm gonna know anyway, so whatever. Anyways, so these right here, this is a pair of 90s, right? These were my first ones, first winterized shoes or whatever. Got these, I wanna say 15 or 16. Followed those up with these right here, another 90. And then eventually at some point got these, which is the same thing, but a 97. I did get these in either late 18 or early 19, because I do like 97s. It's hard to find good ones though, even though I do have two right here, but still. These I got last year, another winterized shoe, and then not quite a winterized thing, but they are utility, which is somewhat built for that type of weather, the Vapor Max, right? The one thing that's missing from this lineup, because, well, let's just be honest, it doesn't fit the description, so he's gonna hang out backstage, is the winterized 12s, right? I do have those because obviously I like winter shoes and I like 12, so how would I not get those, right? But anyways, that's the past. Now it's a new year, it's a new winter, so I needed to be ready for this one. So I was talking recently to one of my guys on the Instagram, Edge. I don't know what his real name is, but it starts with EDJ and then there's like some stuff after that. So I just call him Edge, kind of like Adam Copeland. But anyway, he was talking about, hey dude, I'm trying to get some winter shoes. What do you suggest? So I gave him some ideas, right? I forget exactly what he settled on. I want to say it was the 270 the winterized 270s, if I remember correctly. But anyways, that got me into thinking like, oh yeah, I need to go back and see what's up with these winter shoes for this year, because right now, while they're not really like a thing most people are going for, they're kind of cheap. I mean, I got these things for like $60, right? Which is pretty cheap, at least by my eyes, especially when you go by the retail, which was $130. So there you go. But yeah, that's me. Give you that whole rundown. Now you know why we're here, because I like winter shoes. Took a little longer to get to that than it probably should have, but if you stuck with me, you guys, I appreciate so much more than those timestamp clicking people, or those people that don't notice the timestamp and then just like ask weird questions in the comments. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this box open, huh? Wow, now that is not something I expected, but we'll get into that in a moment. Just kind of caught me off guard. I like it, but again, caught me off guard. Didn't even show you guys the top of the box or any of that stuff, did I? You didn't miss anything, but for those that want to see it, if I can get this thing closed, there you have that. That's the top of the box, and then there you have that. That's the side of the box. Has some stuff on there. Most of it I kind of went over already. Actually, none of it, really. Air Max 200 Winter, Sepia Stone, Reflect Silver. This is actually the first Air Max 200 that I have ever looked at really up close. My sister has a pair, but I didn't buy those for her, I don't think. But I remember I was shoe shopping with her, and that's what she ended up walking away with. But these are the first ones that I've actually really looked at up close. So, interesting, not too bad. And it's going to be a hard judge because, again, they're winters. So I can't really say that they're anything like the normals. But anyways, what I can say is that it is now review time, finally. On this right here, ladies and gentlemen, the Air Max 200 Winter in Sepia Stone and Reflect Silver. Surprised I remembered that. But anyways, there we go. Let's go ahead and knock this thing out, shall we? And as we generally do, we're going to start with the bottom. So across the bottom, what you're looking at down there is a very plain outsole. Kind of reminds me of the 270 just a little bit. But anyway, so you've got some kind of a brownish color, then you got this like orangish color down at the bottom area with that Nike swoosh in there, and you got a little bit of white also sprinkled in between. So not too bad overall, but we're gonna move past that right on up to this here midsole, and what you see there, nothing fancy whatsoever. It reminds me of like the 270 React and just how it's structured. But you know, you've got the white midsole here, move to the back, you've got the bubble with the brown overlay around that, so there you have that. And again, you can see right on in there with the orange. Very nice, very vibrant. I'm liking the color layout of these very much. And if you move around to the back of that midsole, you're gonna see this Air logo back there, so there's that for you. Now let's talk about the upper, because that's what makes this shoe what it is, right? Well, I guess the bottom is what makes it an Air Max 200, but you know what I'm saying. The upper is what makes it a winter Air Max 200. Slight difference, right? So let's get some pictures in here, shall we? Down here around this toe box, right? What you're looking at, if you're looking at the picture and not looking at your phone or whatever else that might distract you, you're gonna be seeing a bit of a mesh kind of thing going on, and around that, you have suede with a little bit of a leatherish kind of material down towards the very bottom, right? I really like the way they've got these materials on here. That's a nice switch up, if you want to call it that, you know, mixing these things in there with the right color layout, in my eyes anyway. And that kind of just continues on to the back, right? So moving to the back, on the outside, right, because they're both built somewhat similarly. On the outside, you've got this swoosh that's kind of looks like it's made out of foil, which is an odd choice to me. I'm gonna say right now that I don't like it, but we'll see how I feel later. And same goes with on the inside, same sort of swoosh. And then moving further up, not all the way to the top just yet, but just above that, you have these little pieces that are kind of holding in the lace holes, if you want to call it that. So it's kind of reflective, and it's got this sort of like net look to it as far as, you know, this diagonal crossing pattern. I am not really sure if I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me, it just is weird. But anyway, so you got that. It's kind of like a silverish color with like this orange going through there. And then on the upper two, you have that same leather style material on there holding that piece in. It's an odd build in my opinion. But then moving further to the back, moving on past all that stuff, what you're going to see around here is very much the same as what you saw everywhere else. So you still got that suede kind of holding down a lot of the upper. On this orange part, that's that hard kind of, it's not leather necessarily, but it feels almost like it, you know what I mean? I'm not sure what that material is, but it kind of reminds me of what you see on the lower end of those camo 90s I was talking about not too long ago. It feels better though. And then you've got this little pull tab thing, of course, on the back. So now let's switch things back around to the front here and get on into this here lacing area with all the tongue and stuff. So the laces that you have on here, pretty small little rope laces. They have some little, you can see a little bit of color in there, just kind of barely sprinkled in. I don't know if it's 3M or not. I'll have to figure that out later. I sometimes say that as a reminder, so when I'm editing this, I remember to like take the picture and see if it's 3M. You know, just a little trick for you. Anyways, moving on past that, behind these laces, you have more of that suede. No, actually, no, this is not suede on the tongue here, or actually, yeah, it might be. It might be on the tongue there. Very plush feeling with that mesh behind it. At the very top, you've got the Air 200 and that orange and blue, which is the same blue that you see on the very back. That's the only place for it, really, but I think that they did a pretty good job of mixing that in there without drawing too much to it, right? Because it doesn't completely fit if they put it everywhere else, but given that it's just right there and on the back, I think it works just fine. What do you think? That's what the comment section is for. So then you have that. And now moving on, we do have one more place for that blue, and that's going to be right here on that insole. So you've got the orange insole with the blue text, right? Just says Air Max in there. And the other one, same thing, just says Air Max as well. So overall, that is the upper, right? It's pretty nice feeling in my opinion. Let me take this thing out here. I'll have to give you the idea of how it feels in a moment once I actually wear them and tell you all about that stuff. But past that, I don't have much else to say. I didn't quite cover this sock liner here. The sock liner doesn't feel to the touch as soft as it looks, but it's probably fine, right? Again, these are winterized shoes, so sometimes they play a little bit more to the insulation and warmth side than just kind of comfort. So I kind of get that. And these feel like they're definitely gonna do that for you, which means I will likely not be wearing them lately, or wearing them soon rather, because it's kind of warm over here. I don't know about where you guys are, but over here it's all kinds of heat, unnecessary. So now that we've done that, we're gonna take a minute, take a little break to put these things on, walk around a little bit, see what I think, because again, I've never worn a pair of 200s, and then I'll be back to tell you what I think. So sit tight, and I'll be back in a moment. Cool? And now, from what you're seeing on the screen, you can tell that I'm back. I've tried these on, and now I'm ready to tell you guys all about them. So here's the thing, right? We're gonna start with the sizing portion, because I know that's what a lot of people want to hear. True to size, I bought these in a 9.5. That's pretty much my go-to for Air Max shoes, and a lot of shoes in general, right? Adidas, Yeezys, whatever you're talking, it's generally gonna be 9.5 for me. And these fit exactly how I expected them to fit, right? Not too much room, not too little, right there being perfect. That's how I feel with my foot. How you feel with your foot could be the same, could be different, but I'm just giving you something to work with. Now, moving on past that, onto the actual feel of these shoes, right? So, right out of the box, I'm gonna say that these are not as comfortable as your average Air Max shoe. They feel a little bit clunky, right? Not heavy, but they just feel a little stiff, right? And that's kind of to be expected because the shoe is a winterized shoe, so it's going to be a little more rigid in the upper because that's generally just how those shoes are made, right? They have those extra materials in there to keep your feet warm and somewhat insulated. Sometimes they have stuff on there to kind of keep out like the precipitation, if you want to call it that. But anyways, the other issue with these that I noticed was just walking in them as far as the heel goes. Again, I just pulled these out of the box. I'm sure they'll get better, but they just didn't flow very well, you know, from step to step to step to step, right? So I'm gonna say that if you do get a pair of these, don't expect anything amazing right up front, because I just feel like they aren't. But again, this is a winterized version, so the overall feeling that I'm talking about might only apply to these, minus that part about the heel, because that's probably universal. But it's not uncommon for shoes to need a little bit of time to break in anyway. Past that though, they are still fairly comfortable, right? They've got the potential to be a lot better in my eyes, but I won't know that for a little while because I won't be wearing these for a while. But that's going to be about as much as I really have to say about these, and probably as much as you care to hear. Now, one other thing that I could throw in there is that just looking at these on the materials and stuff, if you're walking around in some winter wonderland or whatever, I question how dirty these might get, because these materials look like they may not necessarily be the easiest to clean. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you know what? I'm gonna hold off on this for a second. So a little while ago, I was at the mall, right, walking through there, and this dude, yes, I'm going into Champs, he's got one of those little stands where he sells like shoe cleaning things. And he's like, right? And because people have the masks on, I don't know what they're saying some of the time. So my default is, nah, I'm good, right? A lot of people's default is that. But it probably also came off as rabble, right? So anyways, I'm continuing on walking, and he says something else. And then I'm like, say that again, right? And in my mind, immediately, like, Tristan, dude, no, stick to the script. We have a plan for these things. You just keep on moving. Like, what are you doing, right? So anyways, dude starts to say something again, right? And this time I'm listening, right? And he's speaking a little louder so I can hear it. And he's like, do you support Black-owned businesses? And as he was saying that, because I had just had this little internal conversation with myself, I say, no, I'm good, right? Because that's what I had mentally trained myself to do. A bit of an awkward interaction there for a moment, you know? And so that being out there like that, I was like, well, I'm just gonna walk away from this now, you know? So that's what I did. But the thing is, right, is that aside, it's like, you being black does not make me care about these shoes anymore, right? Like, I was wearing some 380s at the time. Like, I don't care about these things. Like, they're keeping my feet from like being off the ground, so that way there's something between like my socks and the pavement, so that's cool. But they're shoes, like, screw it, right? But yeah, it was weird. Or maybe I made it weird, because sometimes I do that. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not sure how easy it'll be to clean these or whatever. If they do get dirty, they kind of remind me of like some 270 Reacts that I have as far as the upper goes and the materials there. And I did get those a little dirty once, and I also, again, don't care. But I tried to wipe it off a little bit, and it's better, but not amazing. So if you're trying to keep these clean, maybe don't. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to say that that's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, I'm also going to say that we're done here, because I feel like this review has been like super long. If you watched this whole thing, comment down below that you watched this whole thing, and you will be my new best friend. Well, you'll move up in the ranks, I'll say that, because, you know, I may not know you that well just yet, but this could help. Totally could help. Anyway, so from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'll be back with a review at some point, because there's a box somewhere that arrived today, and I'll be doing that at some point. No real hurry. That's kind of why I don't mind stretching out these videos, because there's fewer of them. So I want to make sure you still have a whole lot of Tristan Stewart to watch. All right, later, people.